Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Adibi IP Group Innovators Live Q&A, bringing you guys awesome intellectual property content every single day of the week, trying to help you guys navigate the business world from an intellectual property context. We've been doing a lot of really awesome episodes these past few episodes on gaming controllers, taking a look at the way that Sony and Nintendo have protected their controllers using patents, and we're going to get into even showing you how they've been protecting their game controllers, looking at trademarks as well. So last episode, we looked at Nintendo game controllers in the 90s. Today, I want to do a deep dive into game controllers in the 2000s, so from 2000 to 2009. So let's take a look. Let's dive right in. We're going to see a lot of design patents by Nintendo. So let's start off. First things first, I'm going to show you guys how you guys can do this on your own. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to uspto.gov. Now, once you're here at uspto.gov, you're going to want to click on patents and then search. And patent FT stands for actually issued patents. App FT, you're looking at published applications. I want to look at issued patents by Nintendo between 2000 and 2009. So those 10 years, I want to take a look at those years and see what design patents they issued on gaming controllers. Now, what you're going to learn is that it's really neat way to see the history of a company and see how their patents progress and how their technology progressed over time. So once you click on search, you're going to click on advanced, and we're going to type in an advanced search here. So again, you guys can use these same principles for any company that you're interested in researching. Thanks, Victoria. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to search by AN, ASINI, Nintendo, and then we're going to do TTL, which stands for title, controller, and then APT4, which stands for design patents, and then ISD stands for issue date. And we're actually going to provide a range, and that range is going to be from 1/1/2000 all the way to how about 12/31/2009. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and click search right here, and we're gonna get 22 results. Now I did this search before the show and actually pulled up all the results so that you guys don't have to wait for me jumping from controller to controller. But what you're gonna see in this episode is we're gonna learn about basically the Wii controller and the GameCube controller, because those are the two main systems of that decade. So let's dive right in. As I said, I actually already opened all of them before the show started, just so that you don't have to wait around for pages to load. But the very first one right here is the controller for electronic game machine. So if you click on that link, you can actually see the actual full page patent right here. And this is the very first one. In 2002 of that decade. Now this right here, this is your GameCube controller right here. And as you can see, this is a design patent, and it's covering the overall look of the controller. Now, if you guys are interested, or if you guys have comments, or if I say something that's not entirely correct around these particular game controllers, please jump in the comments. I want to get the gamer's perspective, because I admit, coming here from a place of authenticity, I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer. I actually stopped playing around N64 time, so I'm not as familiar with these controllers. But I tried doing a little background research so I don't say anything that's too off. Now again, the next controller that we see this decade is from May 7 of 2002. Now, what you're going to notice here is what Nintendo's doing is they're actually focusing design patents around features of this particular controller. So this last one here covers the entire controller. This patent here is covering just these game portions here, just the two game pads that actually hold the buttons, okay? So not the surrounding areas of the controller where the hands are actually, where you actually grip the controller. So a lot of companies will do this where they will file a design patent on the overall product and then separate design patents on specific features of their particular product. Now let's take a look at the next one. Now this is another variation. I believe that this is also the GameCube controller. And again, so this is it right here. And again, this is the overall controller design. And again, this issued in July of 2002. Now let's keep going forward in time. Again, this is also I understand this is the GameCube controller right here. And again, this is the overall controller that they're protecting. Going back, if you see dash lines like here, dash lines are generally not claimed as a feature of the mark. That's how I knew right away that they were just focusing on these design elements of these controllers. So let's go forward again. So we already looked at this one. Now let's move forward a little more. Now this one, if you guys have any ideas what specifically this was covering, I'd really appreciate you guys commenting on it. I was trying to figure this out. To me, this looks like they're musical drums. And there's a publication about music catalog. So I'm assuming that this was music related, maybe a game controller where you could basically tap on the drums and it would provide input to the gaming console. Again, if any of you guys are familiar with this particular one, please comment on it. Now the next patent that we're going to look at, now this right here, this is the Wii. Of course, this is the Nunchuck. And this was again 2007. So now we're going 5 years later to the Wii. So this is the Nintendo Wii controller, or the Nunchuck. And again, this design patent is actually covering the entire Nunchuck itself. And then these dash lines are not coming as a feature of the mark, so it's not covering these buttons. So pretty interesting. It looks like they filed a certificate of correction. If I had to guess why, it's probably because this main figure shows them in non-dash lines, but then later they're showed in actual dash lines. So yeah. So this next patent here, again, 2007, and this one is actually covering the overall Nunchuck. Notice no dash lines in this one. The last one had dash lines. So this one's covering the overall controller, including the buttons. This one here is not covering the buttons. So the actual joystick and the actual button on the bottom is in dash line. So it's not claimed as a feature of this design patent. This one, on the other hand, this design patent is covering the overall controller and the buttons. Okay, this is the Wii Remote. This is 2008. So we're going forward a little bit in time. And we're going to see several Wii Remotes. Here's another flavor of it. Now, notice a lot of dash lines. So this is covering the overall shape of the Wii Remote. So not the buttons, right? The buttons are all in dash lines. The back adapter, dash lines, dash lines. So it's only covering the overall shape of the actual controller. This one, on the other hand, is covering the buttons in addition to the shape. So let's move forward in time. Okay, this one, I did a little research on this. This is the light gun. And the way it works is basically the Wii Remote fits into this barrel right here. It actually fits in here and turns into a light gun controller. So pretty neat. It's also neat to see an example of, so the Wii Remote or the Nunchuck might be considered core. These are ancillary accessories, and they're also patentable. So if you guys are putting goods out in the market, think about how you might also protect ancillary products in addition to the core features or core products that you're putting out in the marketplace. Now, notice this figure here shows a lot of dash lines. So that to me indicates there's probably other light guns that we're going to be seeing patents on. So this is just one of them. Oh, here it is. So this example, this shows the actual light gun with the Wii Remote actually inserted, okay? And as you can see, there's a lot of dash lines here. So they're really focusing on the element of this opening here in the barrel. That seems to be the core of this particular design patent. Because remember, again, dash lines generally not covered, not claimed as a feature of the mark. So let's take a look at the next one. So again, this is the Nunchuck. This is 2008, April 22nd, 2008. This issued. This design patent is covering the entire design, the feature, the enclosure, and also the buttons. Notice this is the 2-button flavor. The one that we saw before, I think, was 1 button, as you can see. Or were they 2 buttons? Maybe they were all 2 buttons. My apologies. Looks like they were all 2 buttons. Okay, now let's go forward. Okay, so this was the one we were just looking at. Let's look at the next one. Okay, so this is the light gun, but the overall structure actually claimed no dash line, so it's actually covering the entire light gun. And notice, no dash lines, right? So this is covering the actual joystick, in addition to the barrel and the enclosure, all of it. This is being protected with the design patent. And then, of course, This right here, this is the one drawing that I always recommend that you put into a design application if you can, because it shows what you are protecting. It shows your product in context, right? So this shows the Wii Remote inserted into the actual light gun. But remember, the Wii Remote is in dashed lines. So this design pattern isn't covering the overall configuration. Rather, it's covering just the light gun. But it's showing how it might be used once actually purchased by the end consumer. Let's move forward in time. So this I believe is the Wii, another variation of the Wii Remote controller. I believe it's called the Wii Classic Remote Controller. And again, if I'm wrong, please comment. Please let me know if I've got this one wrong. But that's my understanding. And we're going to see a few more like this. And again, they're claiming the overall controller. So the buttons, the actual joysticks in the middle, and the arrow buttons. Now, this is another version of it. Again, another design patent on this, the Wii Classic controller. This right here, Victoria reminded me, I did not remember this, but this was the balance board. So this was the Nintendo balance board. Pretty interesting to see it. So this was it. This is a design patent. I think it's really neat in this episode. We're really seeing Nintendo using design patents to cover all features of their actual console, right? All the controllers for their console. So we've already seen the Nunchuck, the remote, the light gun, and now we're looking at the balance board. So here we go, full coverage using design patents to protect all ancillary products that are associated with their core gaming console. Now let's move forward again in time. Okay, here's another Wii Remote, and this is 2008. Close-ups of the Wii Remote, and again covering all of the remote, the buttons in addition to the enclosure. And as you can see, this shape of this design is a little different than the one that we saw before. Here's another Wii Remote. Here's another Wii Remote. Notice dash lines. Notice where the dash lines are. So the dash lines are here, upper left, upper right, and then the ports, and then these removable panels. Okay, these are all dash lines. They're not claiming these to be features of the actual design itself. So this is focused more on the overall enclosure, the buttons, the location of the buttons, but not a lot of these ports. These ports are not being claimed as a feature of this design. Here's another Wii Remote, and this one also has more dash lines. So very interesting to see where they put the dash lines. Looks like ports, looks like outputs, lights, button. But most of the buttons, though, most of the core buttons, though, however, are in fact in solid lines and are being protected with this design patent. Now, this is the Nunchuck. Notice where they have the dash lines. Very interesting. They're not claiming the joystick, but they are claiming these end buttons, and they are protecting the bottom side. So that bottom curvature, that's what's being protected by this particular design patent. But the top surface, all dash lines, the joystick dash lines not being protected with this design patent. So very interesting. They're focusing on the bottom half of the Nunchuck in this particular design patent. So again, super interesting to see. In this episode, we've seen numerous design patents filed on the same product, but focusing on different aspects. That's been a recurring theme in a lot of the deep dives that we've been doing on this show. So again, all the various views, as you can see, but focused on the underside. The top side, the top half, not really half, but the top portion of this controller is all in dashed lines. And then there's the light gun. I believe this is the light gun, though this may not be. This might be some other variation of it. Maybe it is the Wii. Maybe it is also the light gun. If someone knows, feel free to jump in the comments. But 2009, this issued in 2009. Let's see if we can see some application. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, actually, this looks like it has both the Nunchuck and the remote. So maybe this is another variation of both, dual. Looks like it supports both. So this supports both the remote and the Nunchuck. And then last but not least, the steering wheel. So this is the steering wheel for the Wii, Nintendo Wii, and it's pretty neat because you can see the actual opening. So this opening right here that you see in the middle, this portion actually holds the Wii Remote. So you can insert the Wii Remote in there and then drive around in your racing games. So pretty neat. And there is one drawing that shows the actual Wii Remote with it installed right here. Right here. So this is the actual Wii Remote actually inserted into the steering wheel. And again, highly, highly recommend you guys do this. If you guys have design pads on your products that are part of another product or are ancillary to another product, show how the product of that design pattern is used in context, right? And just make sure that the non-product pieces are in dashed lines. So in this case, the Wii Remote is shown in dashed lines, but it's inserted into the steering wheel, right? Because someone reading this will quickly understand what product is being covered and how it's actually being used. So it'll just provide so much more context, make it more readable and understandable. So again, we just looked at 22 design patents for Nintendo. I hope you guys found this episode super helpful. It's really interesting to see the genesis of Nintendo game controllers over time. We looked at the 90s last week. We're looking at 2000s this week. Tomorrow, we're probably going to look at 2010 to 2020. Let's see what cool controllers we see. Definitely, there's the Switch. There's some really cool Nintendo controllers that we're going to be looking at. Now, another thing that I want to remind all of you about, if you guys are putting goods out in the market, remember that one product might actually be the subject of 2, 3, 10 design patents, okay? So definitely consider that. You might want to focus on different features of that same product. Again, hope you guys enjoyed watching this episode. Looking forward to providing more invaluable content. If you guys have ideas for future shows or questions that you want covered on the show, please send them to Victoria at adibip.com. Send her your questions. We love to get your feedback. We're trying to get as much input as we can because we're trying to create relevant and valuable content that actually helps you guys in your businesses, trying to help you guys navigate the business world from an intellectual property context, because there's a lot of value that can be garnered by protecting your intellectual property with patents and trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. So again, questions, send to Victoria or join our text community, 415-943-5193, 415-943-5193. We'd love to have you as part of our text community. If you guys have questions, text them to that number. That will give you actually direct access to me. So you can send me your questions, I'll answer your questions, and I'll get them on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed watching and looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for episode number 147.